The Bennett home glowed with perfect domestic comfort that night. A scented candle burning near the fireplace, soft jazz playing from the speaker, and the warm hue of golden lamps casting a peaceful radiance. Noah, exhausted from work yet happy to come home, loosened his tie as he stepped into the living room. But instead of the usual smile, he found Claire sitting on the edge of the sofa, her shoulders shaking. She was gripping papers in her hands, so tightly that the pages were wrinkled. When she looked up with teary eyes, her expression wasn't just sad. It was fearful, almost pleading. Noah rushed to her, worry replacing fatigue, but she didn't lean into him like she usually did. For a moment, the cozy house felt unfamiliar, as if something dark had seeped into its warmth without warning. Without letting him speak, Claire thrust the paper into Noah's hands. He unfolded it slowly, heart pounding from the intensity of the moment. It was a printed form from an adoption agency, not a pamphlet or information sheet, a formal application, already filled with their names. Claire's voice shook as she said, "I think we should adopt a child for our family." Noah froze. Adoption? They had never even tried for biological children. When he gently asked what brought this on, Claire kept talking rapidly, as if racing against a clock only she could hear. "We don't need pregnancy or IVF or hospital stress. Adoption is safer. It's perfect. I've already been researching. It's the right way for us, Noah." Her insistence didn't feel like enthusiasm. It felt like panic disguised as love, and the fear underneath her eyes confirmed it. Something wasn't right. Noah sat beside her, keeping his voice soft, trying not to trigger whatever silent battle she was fighting. "Claire, I love the idea of being a father. I really do. But we haven't even started trying for our own child." Instead of calming her, the words shattered her composure. Claire stood abruptly, pacing, wiping her tears angrily as if crying was a weakness. "You don't understand. Pregnancy changes everything. People get obsessed, desperate, broken. Adoption is better." Her voice cracked halfway through, and for the first time, Noah felt something he'd never felt with her: distance. The woman who always wanted to talk through everything suddenly felt like a stranger guarding a secret with her life. Her desperation wasn't about wanting a child. It was about avoiding something. And that realization settled like ice in Noah's chest. The warm home no longer felt safe. Noah Bennett's childhood was a collage of temporary bedrooms and unfamiliar faces. At 6 years old, he watched his parents drive away from a children's home with no explanation, no promise of return, just silence. From then on, he lived in foster houses that blurred together. Polite strangers, rotating rules, and birthdays spent with people who called him sweetheart but never son. The one thing he learned was that love could disappear without warning. So as an adult, the idea of adoption carried two sharp edges for him: hope and fear. Part of him wanted to give a child the unconditional family he never received, but another part feared abandoning the idea of having a biological child first, as if choosing adoption immediately meant admitting that something inside him was broken or unworthy. His life taught him that belonging is fragile, and he didn't want his future child to feel temporary the way he once did. Over the past months, the subtle things about Claire began to shift, not enough to call them red flags individually, but enough that they formed a pattern of distance. Her new late-night work calls that happened almost every evening. Her sudden obsession with gym workouts after years of never caring much about fitness. The increasing coldness in the bedroom. Excuses, fatigue, headaches. Not tonight. She smiled when Noah cooked dinner, but didn't sit beside him anymore. She laughed at his jokes, but didn't reach for his hand. Even her best friend Mia became strangely uncomfortable around Noah, changing the subject the moment Claire's name came up, refusing to make eye contact. It was as if both women shared a secret they were trying to protect, or hide. Noah noticed every detail, every change, yet love is a powerful blindfold. His heart refused to see what his instincts were warning him about. Despite the uneasiness, Noah clung to the version of Claire he married. The smiling woman who once danced barefoot with him in the living room. The woman who cried happy tears at their wedding vows. The woman who whispered, "You'll never be alone again." He loved her so fiercely that even the painful changes couldn't break his loyalty. So when Claire begged for adoption, he didn't argue. He opened his laptop, stayed up late researching agencies, reading requirements, filling notes, planning interviews. He didn't tell her that a small part of him was hurting, that he dreamed of having a child with her eyes and his smile. He put his feelings aside because love to him meant making sacrifices. Even when he sensed that she was hiding something, maybe from him, maybe from herself, he chose to love harder instead of pulling away. That's how deeply he was attached and how vulnerable he truly was. Noah had never been more hopeful in weeks. After days of emotional conflict, he finally found clarity. He would support Claire's dream of adopting, but also ask her to try for a biological child someday. He spent the evening turning their dining room into a quiet celebration. Soft lights, their wedding playlist, her favorite pasta simmering on the stove. He set the table carefully, rehearsing the words in his head. We can adopt and build our own family, too. He wanted to show Claire that love didn't have to be a compromise, that they could choose both. As he placed the final glass of wine, Claire's phone buzzed on the counter. Noah didn't mean to look. He never checked her phone. But the message preview flashed bright on a lock screen. Impossible to ignore. Can't wait to see our baby bump again tomorrow, Red Heart. Ryan. His smile fell first, then his heartbeat. His hands trembled as instinct took over. He picked up the phone, not to invade privacy, but because everything inside him was screaming that something was terribly wrong. One swipe opened the chat. What poured out wasn't doubt or suspicion. It was truth, brutal and merciless. Dozens of messages, months long. Voice notes of Claire calling Ryan baby. Selfies in gym mirrors that weren't workouts. They were secret meetups. Pictures of them in hotel rooms. His hands on her stomach, her smiling proudly. And then the ultrasound photo, captioned, "Our baby is perfect." Noah felt the world tilt. His knees weakened, his ears rang. His pulse drowned out the music from their wedding playlist. Claire wasn't pushing adoption because she wanted to help a child. She was trying to adopt to hide the pregnancy she carried with another man. Every piece of his reality unraveled in seconds. The phone slipped from Noah's hand and hit the floor, but he didn't hear it. He staggered backward, gripping the chair for balance as memories he buried decades ago crashed through him. Watching his parents leave, learning that love could disappear without warning, accepting that he was replaceable. He thought he escaped that fate when he married Claire, when she promised he would never be alone again. But now the same emptiness returned, merciless and familiar. His chest tightened as though the air in the room was shrinking. He sank to the floor, not crying, not screaming, just frozen, staring into nothing. The romantic dinner, the warm lights, the music, all of it mocked him. He had prepared a night to build a family. Claire had already built one, but with someone else. In that moment, Noah didn't just lose his marriage. He lost the one place he ever thought he belonged. After discovering the messages, Noah didn't storm into the room or scream or demand answers. Something inside him broke too deeply for anger to surface. Instead, he chose silence, a silence that ate him alive every second. When Claire came home later that night, cheerful and affectionate, wrapping her arms around him and kissing his cheek, he stood there like a ghost trapped in his own body. She talked excitedly about the adoption forms, about how they were going to be a perfect family, and Noah forced himself to nod, his face steady but his heart bleeding. Every smile she gave him now felt scripted. Every soft, "I love you," felt like a weapon dipped in honey. Yet he said nothing. To speak would make it real. So he watched her, her fake warmth, her nervous laughter, her sudden burst of affection. The audience doesn't just see Noah break. They feel each fracture from the inside. Days turned into weeks, and every moment in the Bennett home became a silent war. Claire cooked his favorite meals, left love notes in his briefcase, sent miss you messages during work, all while sneaking into bathrooms to text Ryan. Noah never confronted her, but he started gathering proof. Photos of her phone screen reflected in the mirror, screenshots of call logs when she left her laptop open, receipts from unknown restaurants crumpled in the trash. He ordered DNA test kits, met with a lawyer during lunch breaks, and stored everything on a private encrypted drive. Claire thought she was fooling him, but Noah was 2 steps ahead while pretending to be 10 steps behind. Some nights she hugged him in bed, curling into his arms, whispering that she couldn't wait to meet their adopted baby. Noah's tears never reached his eyes. He stared at the ceiling thinking. She is pregnant with another man's child, and she is lying in my arms. What Claire didn't know was that her lover, Ryan, was growing impatient. The messages Noah secretly read showed it clearly. Ryan wanted her to leave her husband, start life together, raise their baby proudly. But Claire always refused. Not because she loved Noah, but because she needed him. She needed the financial stability, the social respect of being married to a good, loyal man, and the safety net that her reckless affair couldn't provide. So she manipulated both men, telling Ryan soon, while telling Noah, "I love you more than anything." At dinner, she reached for Noah's hand with a sweet smile, while her phone buzzed silently in her pocket with Ryan's demands. Noah played along flawlessly, but behind every calm nod, every gentle kiss, every good-night sweetheart, he was planning the aftermath. The day was coming when Claire would finally understand that Noah didn't just break. He awakened. The adoption agency lobby was bright and welcoming, decorated with children's artwork, soft pastel walls, and photos of happy families. Claire walked inside glowing with excitement, makeup perfect, hairstyled, holding a binder labeled Future Mom. She believed this day would prove she was a perfect wife, caring, generous, selfless. When she spotted Noah already seated in the counselor's office, she rushed to him and kissed his cheek, not noticing how still he sat, how his eyes didn't light up. The counselor began the meeting with warm smiles, congratulating them on taking such a beautiful step toward parenthood. Claire beamed and squeezed Noah's hand, ready to perform her role of the loving wife in front of yet another audience. But when the counselor asked if they had any final thoughts before proceeding, Noah inhaled deeply for the first time in days. He placed a folder on the table, and the room turned cold. The sound of the folder opening felt louder than thunder. Noah didn't speak. He simply laid the evidence on a glossy table one by one. A photo of Claire kissing Ryan at a hotel entrance, another with Ryan's hand resting proudly on her stomach. Printed screenshots of months-long messages filled with heart emojis and promises, and finally, the document that destroyed every layer of Claire's lies, the DNA test confirming the baby wasn't his. The counselor's smile vanished, her pen slipping from her hand. Claire's face drained of life as she stared at the table, lips trembling, eyes wide in horror. Noah's voice cracked as he finally spoke, not with rage but with soul-deep heartbreak. You never wanted to adopt a child. You wanted to adopt an excuse. Every person in the room went silent. The truth was too heavy to breathe through. The calm in Noah's voice terrified Claire far more than anger ever could. She lunged toward him desperately, grabbing his hands, rambling through tears. "I'm sorry, please. Don't ruin my life. We can fix this. I need you. It was a mistake. Don't leave me." She tried to touch his face like she always did when she wanted forgiveness. But Noah took a step back as if her skin burned. The counselor looked away, unable to watch the unraveling of a marriage. Claire fell to her knees, sobbing, her makeup streaking down her cheeks, begging the man she betrayed to save her from the consequences she created. Noah's eyes glistened not with love, but with finality. He whispered, "You replaced me long ago." Then he stood, buttoned his coat, and walked out slowly. No shouting, no revenge, just heartbreak and dignity. Claire collapsed on the floor as every witness stared in stunned silence. The days following the adoption agency confrontation were not dramatic. They were quiet, deliberate, and irreversible. Noah did not scream, argue, or negotiate. He filed for divorce the same week, instructed his lawyer to communicate everything on his behalf, and blocked every number and email Claire could reach him from. She tried every tactic. Crying voicemails, handwritten letters left on his windshield, apologizing, blaming stress, calling herself confused, even accusing him of overreacting. But Noah had finally learned the difference between loving someone and losing himself to them. He changed his number, moved into a small apartment across town, and refused to look back. For the first time in his life, he chose himself instead of the fear of being alone. Claire broke her own home, her own promise, and Noah was done paying the price. The marriage ended not with chaos, but with closure a month later. Noah attended his first meeting for former foster children. He walked in quietly, expecting to feel out of place, but instead, he found something that shocked him: familiarity. People who knew what it meant to grow up without roots. People who had been left, forgotten, and still learned how to love anyway. Hearing their stories didn't reopen his wounds. It made him feel less alone in them. The following week, he volunteered at a local youth shelter, mentoring teens who were navigating the same loneliness he once knew. The first boy he helped was 14, angry, silent, and distrustful, exactly how Noah once was. Over time, Noah learned how to reach him not with lectures, but with presence. Every hour he spent there didn't erase his past. It rewrote it. His pain became purpose. His abandonment became empathy. His story became a lifeline. Standing outside the shelter during sunset one evening, Noah realized something profound. He was no longer defined by who left him or who betrayed him. For years, he believed abandonment shaped him. But now he understood the truth. It didn't destroy him. It built him. He survived heartbreak twice, once as a child, once as a husband, and both times he rose from it. He no longer needed Claire's love to feel worthy or a biological child to feel like a man. He was whole because he chose healing instead of bitterness, growth instead of revenge. When one of the teens hugged him goodbye and whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on me," Noah felt something powerful, belonging, not the belonging someone gives, but the belonging you build for yourself. For the first time in his life, Noah wasn't afraid of his past or his future. He was ready for both. 1 year later, Noah stood in the courthouse hallway, the same place where people fought, ended marriages, and signed things they wished they never had. But today, he was there for the opposite reason. Beside him stood Ethan, a 7-year-old boy with big brown eyes and a nervous grip that tightened around Noah's hand every few seconds. Ethan had been in 3 different foster homes in 4 years, and though he tried to look brave, his little shoulders trembled underneath his worn coat. Noah remembered that feeling, the fear of not knowing whether the next adult would stay or disappear. When the judge finally called their names, Ethan flinched and looked up at him, silently begging for reassurance. Noah squeezed his hand and whispered, "I'm right here." They walked into the courtroom together, not as 2 strangers whose lives had crossed by accident, but as 2 souls who needed each other at exactly the right time. The adoption hearing was brief but sacred. Papers were signed, legal statements were read, and the judge looked at Noah with a warmth that suggested she understood the weight of what this day meant. "From this moment," she said gently, "you are officially father and son." Ethan didn't react immediately. He looked frozen, as if the words were too good to trust. Even when they stepped back into the hallway, he clung to Noah silently, waiting, hoping, terrified that the world was about to change his mind. Outside the courthouse doors, snow had just begun to fall, dusting the steps in quiet white. Ethan finally whispered the question that had been living in his heart for years. In every home, with every goodbye, "Are you really going to stay forever?" Noah's breath caught, not from pain, but from the overwhelming gift of being chosen by someone who never had anyone choose him. Noah knelt in the snow so that he and Ethan were face to face. The cold didn't matter. Nothing mattered but this moment. He placed his hands on Ethan's small shoulders and said with absolute, unshakable certainty, "I'm never leaving. You're my son." Ethan didn't say anything. He threw himself into Noah's arms with such force that it nearly knocked them both over. Noah held him tightly, eyes closed, heart full in a way he never thought possible again. A year ago, betrayal shattered his world. Today, love rebuilt it, not through blood, not through fear, but through choice. As the camera of life would pull back, snow continued falling softly, 2 figures locked in an embrace of healing and belonging. Noah didn't become a father because of heartbreak. He became a father because he refused to let heartbreak define him. And this time, love stayed.